Hello everyone and welcome to the first video on this channel in a very long time. I have not had the time to upload in a long time, so that's why there's not been any videos, but now I feel like getting back into it. So I thought I'd make a little video showing my rack, and then afterwards I could make some videos about the HomeLab stuff I do. So this is, let's just start with the rack. It is a HP rack. I have no idea what model. It was given to me by a friend. I don't know if he wants his name to be said, so I won't. He will be anonymous, but thank you very much for the free rack. So as you can see, it has side panels on the one side, but there's no side panels on the other side because it was connected to multiple racks, and this was the end rack, which is why I only have one side of panels. If we start up at the top, we have some switches. Top one is a Cisco switch. You can see the model here. It's SG200, 26 port switch, and it is it's a gigabit, and I don't even think it's PoE. It's just a regular gigabit one. It was one that my brother gave to me because there was some people who left it at a makerspace for people to take. So he took some for me because I like networking, and they're just fun to play around with sometimes. Below that is my Zyxelo. I believe it's a 48 port. I'll just zoom into the model number so you can see. Probably 24 actually, because it says 24 HP. So this is a apparently a 24 port PoE switch, also gigabit. It is managed. This one was actually one that I got for very cheap when I was buying my my R710 down here. The guy was like, "Oh, I have a cheap switch. Do you want it also?" And 24 port PoE. I couldn't really turn that down. It was 200 Danish kroners, which is roughly like 40 US dollars. If my head math is correct. I don't know. Do you say head math? I don't know what you say. That's a direct translate from Danish to English, so I don't know if that translates. Anyways, here we have my recent purchase is a collection of these LTO4 tapes. There are this one came with the drive I bought, and then the rest pack of 15 I bought on eBay for 120 US dollars. It was a decent price, I think. They are 1.6 terabyte compressed. Yeah, so you can see that they are 1.6 terabytes, and I believe that is 800 or 900 or something uncompressed. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, so there's 15 of those. I haven't gotten around to actually back up anything on them yet, but that is the plan, that I'll take important stuff and stuff that doesn't need to be on warm storage to be cold storage. Yeah, cold storage. Below this is my 24/7 server. This is an Intertech case. Don't remember the model number, but you can see it has 4 fans in the front of this mesh. There's actually also some fabric in here, which helps catch the dust, as you can see by the circles. Then it has 8 hard drive bays compatible with SAS and SATA, and I have a LSI HBA inside it to connect those, because it's 2 backplanes, or it's 1 backplane with 2 connectors. So I have a dual port SAS HBA. I think it's called SAS 8000 or 3000 or something. I don't remember the model numbers of these things. But yeah, as you can see, it has 8 bays, and since 3 of the lights are blinking, that means that there are 3 hard drives in there. They are 18 terabyte Seagate Exos X18. Below that is the KVM console that I use for the legacy servers, which are down there. This one I have a Bleak Cube. We can just go around to the back and then turn on the light. So you can see here this HDMI cable that's going here. It's for the remote management. So this PoE powered Bleak Cube PCI. PCI. You call it Raspberry Pi CM4 card with internal USB and then the HDMI obviously. And so it can emulate keyboard, mouse, virtual CD, and then show the screen. And then it always has power because it has the PoE power. That one doesn't have VGA, so I'm not able to connect it to the console. Plus it's 24/7 server, so I don't really mess around with it on the BIOS and physical side. So I don't need this console here. While these servers I mess around with all the time, so it's easier to have a physical console also. But anyways, you can see here that this is the console itself, and I did buy that used. And the good thing about it is it actually has the Danish keyboard. So when you're messing around with stuff and you're trying to figure out the keyboard, you don't need to. It's always an IT problem where you need to translate the US keyboard into Danish keyboard. But I don't have to do that. It's quite old model, so it has PS2, and the cable goes back into the darkness. So PS2 and VGA, and that goes up into this KVM I have back there. We'll go around to the back and see that. 4-port KVM switch that thankfully does support hotkey, so you can like double tap control and press a number. So then I could hide away the KVM, and that is also used. Much of my stuff is used. Only actually this one was bought brand new, and some of my switches back here. This one was brand new, but most of the other stuff is used, which it's a lot cheaper than to buy a brand new enterprise server. About those enterprise servers. This one is not that much of an enterprise server. It's a QNAP NAS, very old. That was actually the same person who gave me the rack, also gave me this one, because he didn't need it anymore, and I thought I could use it for something, but then I figured out it couldn't really run what I wanted to run on it. So now it's mostly sitting here, and then it only has 3 of these bays here, and one of them is also broken. So you could just put in the hard drive and lay it there, but I don't really use it because it can barely run anything. I tried upgrading the RAM, but I think it maxed out at 2 gigabytes. Maybe it was only 1. Actually, I couldn't even put in more than it had originally. So below that is my Dell R310 came with 16 gigs of RAM. I put in 24. I can't remember the CPU, but it's not the most powerful server in the world. It was when I bought this server, the guy gave me an extra server of this one because it was defective, so I had one for spare parts. And then he was like, "Oh, do you also want this 310?" And I was like, "I mean, if you're gonna include it for free, then yes." And then he also gave me one for spare parts, so I bought one server and came out with 4 plus that switch up there, which was a bit much, but that's always nice. That was quite a few years ago, so I think it bought it in like 2019, so 6 years ago. And this is the first enterprise server I bought from a different person. It's a Dell R610, and I ran that for 24/7 server for a while before I switched over to that was actually it's actually the motherboard that's inside of this guy, which I found in the garbage room of my old apartment building. Some guy just left the motherboard and CPU, the heatsink and graphics card and RAM and all that. No case. He probably just upgraded and brought all those components. So I took those components and bought that case and made a low power ish, but also not very powerful because it was, I think, third gen Intel i3 or i5. Right now that is my backup server hosting my backups. But yeah, I upgraded to that as a 24/7 server from that one, because that one is very power hungry. And it was still powerful enough to run my daily workload. It's not like I do a whole lot on the server that actually requires power. So, but yeah, now it has 4 10 terabytes and 4 8 terabytes. Because I moved the 8 terabytes came from my old NAS, for old backup NAS. Took the 8 terabytes from there and put in there, and then from my old, before I built this server, I had some 10 terabytes in another one, which is not here currently. And I also put that in there. So now I have plenty of storage for backups, and also files that I don't really care if I lose, but they take up a lot of space on the main array. So I have like, what I call it, I just call it the dump share, where I put files that I don't really care about, but I still like to have. Can't tell you what it is, but you can probably figure that out. Yeah, and so anyways, that was a side quest. Let's get back to the server. So this is the R710 with actually the specs of this one. It has two, I'll put the CPUs up on the screen because I can't remember. And then it has 196 gigabytes of RAM, and I don't think it has any storage because I use it just for like testing Proxmox and installing Windows and, you know, the things that you do on a Friday usually. I think it might have an SSD or two. That one is empty. Yeah, it does have, and including I even left the screws in there. So we can just see that. It's a 480 gigabyte Kingston SSD. I did buy a batch of like 6 of them, just because they're useful to have around. That was the same time when I was running these servers 24/7, so I just had a whole bunch of those SSDs. And I believe also this 710 has, it's really hard to do with one hand, this. I believe it has a SSD also, same one as the other one. There's no redundancy or anything in these servers, because again, they're just for testing or for messing around with, so I don't really want to just waste having SSDs in there that are not going to be used for anything productive. And this is the most recent enterprise server I bought. It's a it's a T610. So the same family of this one, just for the desktop edition, and you can see it's desktop edition, but I rack mounted it because actually, even though they have special rails for the T610 to be rack mountable, it actually just fits the regular rails for these servers also. So instead of buying rails that would cost twice as much specifically for the T610, I just bought R710 rails and put them in here. It looks a bit weird that they don't go all the way up, but it's the same whole alignment. And basically you just take off the feet. I don't think that this cable is connected, so you can't slide it out. But yeah, this. But yeah, you just take off the feet, take off the top panel, and then you can rack mount it. And the primary reason actually for buying this server was because it comes with LTO4 tape drive, and it was cheaper to buy a whole server with that than to buy the drive individually. Because if I bought the drive loosely, I would also have to get some sort of controller for it and put it somewhere, and it just made more sense to buy it with a server with the drive, because it already came with a SAS expander, so it has the original RAID controller, and the previous owner put a SAS expander, so it could connect the tape drive also. And I even flipped the screen around, so it's sideways. And below that is my old ancient UPS from before I was born, probably. I bought it from my old work. and I don't really use it anymore because it's super inefficient. It uses like 50 watts even in pass-through mode, and has 3 12-volt batteries in it from 2018. I wrote on the back, I think. You can see that. You see 09 2018. Yeah. So I don't really use that anymore, but I used to use it. Maybe I should get rid of it. I also have old UPS in here. That's a FSP, you can see. And then I also have this power supply that I bought on sale. 1200 watts for 1200 crowns, which was cheap. So I'm probably gonna use that at some point, or either resell it for a better price, because yeah, it was a very good sale. So getting around to the back, here we have my newly installed ancient KVM from also before I was born, probably. It's 4-port VGA PS2 KVM. Doesn't use a whole lot of power actually, because as soon as I disconnect the power supply down here, it stays on for multiple minutes. So I imagine that it doesn't use a whole lot. I haven't actually measured it, but it can't be that much. And then here I have 8 HP switches. They are only 100 megabit. You can just see the product number here, if you want to have a look at that. But they are only 100 megabit. They're not really worth anything. I was gonna play around with them, but haven't really got around to that yet. One of them has also started failing, so when you turn them on, this one just has a fault light. But yeah, below that is my one of my Intel N100 mini PCs. It's the one I have for like I have a test Proxmox on it with a test pfSense and stuff. You can see I have this one is passed through directly to Proxmox. And pfSense, I believe also. Yeah, pfSense has a bridge to this interface. It's a Linux bridge, and then Proxmox and pfSense is on that. And then these 3 are directly passed to pfSense. So there's the pfSense LAN and the WAN, and this one is just has no internet connection, but is pfSense GUI and Proxmox GUI. I primarily use it when I want to set up a little test network isolated from everything, or just play around with Proxmox. It's the same setup I have for my primary router, and it's a similar N100 box, just with a better heatsink. It also has a fan on top. It's just a 120mm fan, as you can see, which is running my production pfSense and some other miscellaneous containers I have on it, which is convenient because, you know, all the low power containers can easily run on a N100 with this one has 8 GB of RAM and my other one has 32 GB of RAM, and they use around like 10 watts, I would say. So for running, like I have Penguin Share for if you remember Zippy Share, to easily share zip files or something, but it's self-hosted. And it's always a pain. You want to share a file and it's too large for Discord, and it's like, what do you do? I mean, you could share it on Google Drive, but then you have to remember to delete it, or you could just have Penguin Share and you can set it to expire to also delete. And like the Cloudflare tunnel, and I have a test Home Assistant server running on it as well. My real Home Assistant is running on a Home Assistant Yellow. The reason I'm not showing you is because it is through that network cable, and downstairs in the utility closet I have mounted a little shelf to put my primary switch and my firewall and my Home Assistant Yellow box. I'll probably just put a picture. So moving on, here we have my Hasbro managed 8-port 2.5 gigabit plus another port with 10 gigabit. It also has PoE, so it's my primary switch in the rack. I don't really want to be running. This one is gonna be my primary switch at a point when I have more 10 gigabit devices. Currently my only 10 gigabit device is my Mac Mini M4. So it wouldn't really make sense to plug that in to have it not be able to communicate with anything at that speed. So at some point I'm going to be upgrading the motherboard in that one, so I have more PCI slots. Because right now I only have one X16, which is taken up by my HBA. You might be able to see the different backplate here. So I have a mini ITX, micro ATX in that one, because it came out of that case, which was upgraded after I got the old scrap one, and then I upgraded to the motherboard from that to that one. And then when I moved to this apartment, I got the rack, and I got this case with this ATX, but I didn't upgrade the motherboard, so it's still micro ATX. I want an ATX motherboard, and then I would buy a 10 gigabit SFP card, so I could connect it to this switch, which I bought on auction from ProShop for a pretty good price. I would think. I don't actually remember how much I paid for. I think it was like 800 kroners, which I think is a fair price for this kind of switch. Fully managed, layer 3, all of it. I think it's end of life, but that doesn't really matter to me since it's home use anyway. But yeah, this one is not powered on because it's only connected to the Hasbro switch, and yeah, it wouldn't make sense. So at some point I'll get the server connected, the Mac Mini, maybe even my desktop, and also these 4 ports here, they are also 10 gigabit, but they are copper. So probably my desktop and my Mac Mini would use those, including this switch also, because I did buy the one with the copper 10 gigabit. And then the server would obviously use SFP, because I also have some DAC cables that I already bought. Anyways, let's move on. So next in line is my TP-Link unmanaged switch. I only recently powered this on to use as just a regular dumb LAN switch, so I don't fill up this switch with things that don't need to be plugged in here. So currently you can see there's only one thing plugged in, but it's actually the first switch I bought. It's a TP-Link unmanaged. I'll just give you the model number there instead of me having to say it. Cost $100 when it was new, and that was in 2016, or maybe 17 actually. Maybe I'll see if I can throw a picture up on screen of how I had it mounted when I was living at my mom's house, because I had all of these servers down here. I had all of those connected with, because like some of them here you can see they have like quad ports and dual port network cards. So I had those connected like in the ether channel to that, and I tried to do that with an unmanaged switch and stuff. It gets smarter. Yeah. It was cheap for the size of switch and at that time, and it doesn't really use much power because it's unmanaged. So that's just running as a management or LAN switch, or whatever you call it. No VLANs, no PoE. And yeah, here you can see the back of my 24/7 server. I have some Noctua fans mounted here, and also the 4 in the front are Noctua to be as quiet as possible. Then I put some noise reducer cables on it, because they're not PWM, they're just powered from the 2 in the back are actually powered from the motherboard, but no, actually I don't believe they are. They're powered from the back plane, so they just run at full speed. But then I put the noise reducers on there, and the 4 in the front are powered from like a little Molex PCB that came with the case. Anyways, moving on, we have my 2 PDUs from Deltago. They were the cheapest one I could get locally. They were actually new. Actually, no, one of them I did buy used because it was cheaper to buy it used than to buy it new. for some reason. I don't know why people sell it cheaper when it's used. Just kidding. It has this pretty useless display where you can see how many volts and amps are going, and then you have to calculate the watts yourself. So I have the reason I have two PDUs actually is because these ones are for my production stuff, and then this one below is for my testing stuff. And then the production one is connected to this cable down here, which is just always powered. And then this one is connected to a smart plug, so I can turn it on and off easily and monitor the power. And then also powering the whole rack from over here with another power meter, because I like to keep track of power usage. And I have that all in Home Assistant with nice graphs and all that. So yeah, those are the two PDUs. Just turn on some light so it's probably easier to see. Here's the second switch that came with the one from my brother from that makerspace. He got two sizes. SG3052. So yeah, 3000. I'll zoom out again. And above that is a Cisco switch that I have no idea what it's called. 1841. It was one I also bought used when I was taking my education, just to have something of my own that I could mess around with. That was the wrong zoom button. It's only 100 megabit, but yeah, it was just to learn Cisco stuff, and now I have it also powering my my lab servers down here, so that they have their own isolated network with their own DHCP. And this one is gonna be, I haven't actually configured this switch yet, but I'm planning to configure it so like that they will act as separate switches. So I'm not gonna use VLAN tagging on the ports, but I'm just gonna have like each pair of 8 ports in their own VLAN, so that they will just act as like separate switches. And then I would like have uplink for this one, going uplink to my lab LAN on my PSNs, and then it would uplink to this, and then this one would have a LAN here, and then don't have actually I would have a tag on that one, and then I have the management one not connected to the internal network of this one, because then I would be able to access them on my management VLAN. But I haven't gotten around to configure all of that yet, but that is the plan, so that I can have the server OS on their own network and still access the IPMI, but for the iDRAC, that as HP calls it, which is not HP itself. Yeah, I'll still be able to access that, so I don't have to sit at the console in the front. And as you can also see, I am using those lttstore.com magnetic things. They are actually pretty useful for racks because everything in here is magnetic. And I'm also using these ones that were included. I do think, if I have to say so myself, that I managed these thick cables pretty well for the KVM. They are some chunky cables and they are pretty hard to tame, but I do think that I did a pretty good job of it. Tying them in here. There's four of them. I still need to get some more of these USB to PS2 adapters. I only have one and I need 3 more. So right now the VGA is only plugged in, as you can see here, but the PS2 is just laying there. I think that's pretty much it for behind here also. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I forgot to tell about the specs for this main server. It's a Intel i5-12400, and it has, I'm just using the built-in graphics, and then 128 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, not ECC, and it's a regular gaming motherboard. And yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, let me know in the comments if there's something you would like to see a video about, we'll go back to the front because it makes more sense to talk here. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you want to see a video about something. I am planning to migrate this server from Windows to Proxmox, and I was planning to make a video on that also. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that, and then I hope to see you then.